live in just a minute.
Okay.
There, we are on live. Good morning or
Morning.
good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Business Our Way this Sunday. I know for a lot of women in not only in our community in WEIC, but across the nation, we're mourning the death of a great leader. And we're all, I think, in a lot of concern for our future. But another great reason to be sitting here Sunday talking with women who lead us through cannabis. And Annie, as I think a lot of you know, has really been a superstar up here in Northern California. And I'm excited to get to welcome Annie. Well, now she's CEO of the Galley in Santa Rosa, a Type 7, is that correct? Manufacturing license.
We have a manufacturing license and a distribution license.
Well, Annie, thanks for taking time out.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, for us in Northern California, this is like normally cram time. You know, it's harvest season. I'm sure you're getting all your clients in line and all your production systems in line. But this year we've had COVID. You know, now we have these fires.
Yes.
And we have, you know, this immense racial injustices and awareness coming to those injustices.
Yes.
And yet here you are paving a road, not just through incredible times, but through an industry that we all know is a tsunami.
Yeah.
First,
a very good way to put that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Well, you go right ahead. It's all to be taken. It's all to be given. You're not stealing anything.
That's true.
Yeah. First, I'd like to know, you know, because we have women literally from all over the world who tune in. What is it like for you in your little community with COVID and all this disruption happening in the world?
Well, I will tell you, it is challenging. And, you know, when we literally got our licenses when COVID hit, I mean, like within a few days. And of course, at the beginning of this and even now, there's so much unknown that right at the beginning of this, we decided, okay, we have to take this seriously. We have to set up our plant with a really strict protocol because everyone was very, you know, trepidatious and didn't really know what are we going to do. I mean, I was like, oh boy, you know, and thankfully I have a really good director of operations and she has a lot of experience and with manufacturing and with food and setting plants up. And so she just went through, we took the first 30 days or so and just COVIDized everything. Meaning, you know, we have lots of gear. We are, you know, set the plant up to be very safe. So our employees feel safe. We also engage with our employees once a week. We have what we call our COVID meetings. And one of my staff members had she heads the meetings up, and it's about communication for us. And it's, you know, I really want to engage with my staff. I want them to know that I'm there for them. I want them to know that I feel the same way they do. I feel the fear and the unknown. And so just those connection points and engaging our staff and setting up the plant to be safe. We've actually had nobody come down with COVID-19. I mean, there's only 15 of us, but so I feel pretty proud of that because, you know, we also limit the guests and, you know, we're taking all the precautions. But for me as CEO, just the fact that my staff could look at me and say, oh, she's scared too. You know, I think that was it was about just keeping the constant communication and engaging them and getting their ideas about how to stay safe and meeting their needs if they need to work at home or they need childcare, things like that. So that brought us all together.
Do you feel that a lot of this permit work getting to actually opening with a cannabis business in California has helped you navigate COVID more effectively?
That's a really good question. Yes, actually. It has, because there was a lot of pivoting and moving around and having to change direction and, oh, this law changed and, oh, now we got to go this way. And so, yes, that was actually a very good lesson. 100%.
Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot of the challenges of just being a part of this culture for so long has prepared us for this
Hmm.
whole experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, honestly, I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a really valid point. Um, and it also, I'm a pretty calm person anyways, but it allowed me to stay calm around this when I was pretty scared and anxious, because we had so much hoop jumping to do. We really tried to just solve for all the issues instead of, the permitting issues, if you will. So when this came around, we were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So absolutely. Yeah, that
Yeah, I feel really proud of all of us,
I
you know,
do too.
to
I do
see
too.
through this. And we, I mean, as an industry, we haven't had as much loss as we could have. And I think a lot of that has to do with our resilience and strategy ability.
And also just coming together too. I come from a graphic design background. And so, I was been an artist. Both my parents were artists. And so I always, my community of artists were pretty cool people, but this industry, even more so. Just, I always get the help that I need. I always make effort to help people when they call me, even with random questions that have nothing to do with what I'm doing. I always take the time and stop and help somebody or connect somebody to the person they, and a resource they may need. Because guess what? That circles right back around and lands on my plate in a really good way. So this industry in particular is very, very good about coming together and being one.
Yeah, I think we're great community builders, and that has a lot. We had to build community to keep ourselves functioning,
Sane. Sane.
clean and functioning.
Yeah.
It's how it
Yeah.
worked back then.
Well, it's
Um,
true. I would call people all the time in the beginning. We were trying to get permitting and like, are you going through this with the city? Who did you talk to? Who do I need to go and talk to? And I would get those answers, and then I would go down a different path and sometimes have success. So just being able to reach out to people that were dealing with the same types of stuff we were, that was very helpful.
yeah, so I always like to ask this one same question, just because it kind of it's always a different story. And it's how did you come to the plant? What brought you to this place where now you're running a manufacturing facility, which is a very large feat?
Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I say to myself, how am I doing this? Because I was a sole proprietor my whole career, a graphic designer. I had a design firm, but I had contractors that worked for me. So this is a new gig for me. But I'll tell you how I came to the plant. Just a little background. I was raised, both my parents were artists. They both used marijuana. My dad had a little plant in the backyard. And so my parents were pretty open about this type of thing. But for me, when I first tried cannabis, I didn't like it. And that was back in high school, or maybe, yeah, probably high school. I can't remember. It kind of made me quiet and just a little paranoid. And, things were very different back then. And I don't think there were strains back then. I'm sure there were, but they certainly weren't identified. And so, I didn't really like it. And so I didn't use, well, pot. It was pot back then. We used to buy it in a dime bag or a nickel bag, so like your finger or whatever that was, for like $5, right? So, and then, it was anything from shake to some really heavy duty buds, so you never quite knew what you were going to get. So I didn't, throughout college and whatnot, I just didn't go down those paths. And then even as a young adult and into my 30s and 40s, it just didn't really, wasn't something I did. No judgment, it just didn't work for me. So, but then I was starting to get a little burnt out by being a graphic designer. I had my firm since 1987, and I was getting, very tired of make this pink, make that purple. I'm like, great, where's my check? So I was like, I figured I needed to do something else. And I got very lucky because I had a client who had an insurance company, and she was one of the first people to write insurance for cannabis. And this friend of mine, we're still friends, she is so lucky. She's the luckiest person I've ever met. So she goes to the 2015 Kentucky Derby back when that California Chrome Horse was running, and she did one of those like triple bets, and she won like a whole bunch of money. And she came back and she said, let's start a little medical bakery. And I was like, what? Okay, you know. And so she handed this money off to me, and we started this little bakery. We called it Derby Bakery. Our tagline was, it's your lucky day. And when we started that bakery, I started getting interested and started really researching cannabis, and I started using cannabis to sleep better. I started using CBD, real high-end CBD for anxiety instead of some of the medications. Like I was on Klonopin, which is a very addictive medication. It also messes with your brain. It sometimes I couldn't really remember my name, so you know, I was like, I need to get off this. And then the other thing was I was taking a lot of Advil because I was, you know, had been sitting for so long that I had a lot of aches and pains. And so in opening this bakery and then starting to experience with cannabis, that's how I really started learning about the plant and understanding, wow, this works. I don't need to take these pharmaceuticals. I can go this whole other route. And so so that's how I got involved. And our bakery actually, we had a lot of traction throughout the state. It was medical, and so that was very gratifying for me, in doing something completely different, where I was working with veterans, I was working with cancer patients, HIV patients, and I'm a very nurturing person anyways, and so to be able to help these people out and you know, have somebody say, hey, I've been able to get off all my pharmaceuticals, even though I have a terminal brain tumor. I can communicate with my family, I can eat, I can watch a movie. And I mean, it was so incredibly gratifying. So then when the proposition passed, I was in Petaluma, and of course they were like, okay, gray zone, you're out of here. So because that was kind of a gray zone back then. And so that's how I ended up scaling up to the galley.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of people that were in your exact situation, right, who didn't and are still trying to figure out how to bridge into legalization.
Yes.
And there's an enormous amount of hurdles, right, to get around and through that. But you here you are, you know, just like so many others, but you are still moving forward and getting to do what was so gratifying. What would you say, and I know this is hard to whittle it down, but what would you say was one of the biggest hurdles to transition for you? Besides money, because everyone says money.
No, it wasn't actually.
Oh, well, great.
Now I need some more runway. So that is challenging for me right now. And, you know, I think I got it, but, you know, because we were, you know, a little underfunded to begin with, although I didn't know that at the time, you know, but that actually wasn't a problem. I raised the money pretty quick. I raised $3 million, and I found a partner that had a building that they owned, and it's a big, huge building. And so that's how we did that. But I would say probably dealing with the local regulations and the delays, the delay after delay after delay. And at first I was kind of like, okay, I guess this is the way this goes. But then I started calling people, you know, like I mentioned earlier, and saying, are you going through this? And some people were, and some people weren't. And it really boiled down to who you were talking to at the city level, you know, and then it also boiled down to like us just literally showing up there at the counter instead of waiting for them to say, okay, I'll get back to you within 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. And in the beginning, I let that go. And I thought, okay, they'll do what they say because I do what I say. But that wasn't the case. And so we started going down there. Literally, I jokingly say, I said I had an army cot down there and a sleeping bag and a pillow, because I mean, I was down there all the time just saying, hi, did you do this yet? You know, so it was that way with the city. It was also that way because we gutted the building. And so the construction project, there were so many facets to that project. I mean, plumbing, electrical, just you name, driveway, easements, pavement, on and on and on. And so dealing with that sector, even though we had a builder and a project manager and everything, we still had a lot of other vendors, and I experienced the same thing with them. And I realized it was two things. One, we were cannabis, so I guess I was more on the bottom of the list. And two, and I hate that I'm going to say this because it's just not how I think, but I finally realized part of this was because I was a woman. And literally, I don't like those words coming out of my mouth, because like my parents raised me so androgynously. I mean, I seriously thought I was a boy till I was 12. I mean, I don't think like that. I just think I can do anything a man can do. I can speak in front to a male investor. I mean, I literally like get my penis out if I have to, so, but I mean, so to me, I don't see that shift, but I finally had to come to grips with it. Yeah, you know what? This is happening to me also because I'm a woman, and I'm being treated this way, where I'm getting put on this second rung. And so, how I solved for that was, just again, I kept not badgering, but just very persistent, very like, hey, you said you get back to me next week, it's Friday, you said, like, so, and that seemed to work, but it was still literally pulling teeth. So, yeah.
Oh, well, that I think a lot of folks, women, feel that way in particular. I don't feel like my hurdles, well, I feel like my hurdles in the beginning of the permitting process were, actually, I don't feel like it. I know for the first 2 years of this show, from 2004 till 2017, it was because I was a woman. But then I feel like our voices got really loud.
Yes.
As women in the industry.
Yes.
And I haven't had to deal with many people outside of the industry, outside of Humboldt County, in other roles. Everyone I deal with outside of Humboldt County is interested in cannabis.
Right.
And locally in Humboldt County, everybody has already been making money off of the industry and construction for a really long time.
Right. Right.
And the company that we worked with was actually really amazing. It was other situations that impacted us. So so being a woman, you feel like you were kind of on the lower of the priority list, it sounds like, as far as
I think so.
Okay, so you mentioned that persistence is how you navigated that. What are some other key tools that you use to help get to this side of the railroad tracks, so to speak?
Well, I think you have to think like a man if we're talking about dealing with men in the industry. And I think a lot of women, they will, I call it the clucking hen syndrome. It's just like, men are short and to the point, and they don't want to hear it. And like, especially like you're dealing, like, for example, with an investor, you need to come in with what I call a nugget, like a real strong point, and you need to leave with a nugget, and the conversation needs to be short. And I think women, as women, because we're nurturers and we actually know how to communicate very well, we tend to over communicate when we're talking with men. And so that was one of the things I learned really quickly, just to kind of act like them, like mirror them, like short, to the point, direct, not bitchy. I mean, I don't even want to use that word because that's not where I go, but firm, assertive, confident. Even if you're not feeling confident, you got to dig deep some days. I mean, there's lots of days that I don't feel confident, and lots of conversations that haven't gone as well as I would have liked them to, but you kind of got to sit down and psych yourself up to deal with a situation. Sometimes I have a funny little thing that I would do sometimes. I don't know if you watch that show Billions, but it's about
I love that show.
Okay, so that guy is so badass, but he's over the top, right? But his psychiatrist, Wendy Rhodes,
I love her.
She is like so I honestly, I'm blushing right now. I have a picture of her that I printed out. And when I have to have a really intense call, I put it up onto my screen. No, I don't have it up there right now. By the way,
Good.
if I have to have an intense phone call or Zoom call with someone, male or female, I have this little thing. It's got a picture of Wendy Rhodes, and it said, "What would Wendy Rhodes say?" Because like she's brilliant, you know, and she's strong, and she's the kind of person I think you need to be at some point. So I think I think you have to do all of those things, but I also think you have to be true to yourself too. And you have to be okay with making mistakes, and if you can find the growth out of those mistakes, whether they be conversations or paths you go down, I think that for me was a good tactic too, to build my confidence, to be like, okay, I made a mistake, whatever, I'm not going to beat myself up over it, because a guy's not going to do that. The other thing women do all the time, they say they're sorry all the time. Stop saying you're sorry. Just like if you sit in a room full of women, they just start their sentences with "I'm sorry" a lot. It's like,
Oh, you know what? I used to do that.
Yeah, me too.
And then 2 years ago, I do these eclipse practices, and I had this big thing during the practice, and I was like, oh wow. So I literally have had to erase. I'm really good now, but for like the first year, I had to erase so many emails because it started up, "I'm sorry," and I'm like, but
for what? You're not. Yeah.
No,
Actually,
and it's not even that being sorry or sorry. It sets us up to be a victim.
Right. That's that's the tone. There are other words that you shouldn't use. One of them is just. 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 I'm just going to tell you this, or whatever it is.
Oh, I'm guilty of that.
Just take that word out of your vocabulary, because I use that word a lot in emails, and I'm still doing it. And I have very bad dyslexia and some other learning disabilities that, which is why I'm an artist, but and a really good one. But you know, I have to reread my emails all the time anyways, and I'm still taking that word "just" out of the emails, because that sets you up for, you know, for not, I don't want to say weakness, but it just doesn't work.
Right.
It's tentative. You don't want to be tentative.
Right. We talked about this when we spoke on the pre-interview, and I've started noticing that after we talked about it, and it does. It again. I was just writing something the other day, and I took it out, and I was like, well, that's really, am I just going to do this? No, I'm a fucking badass. And if I do this for you, it's going to be amazing. There's no just about it.
Exactly. And it's true. I mean, my partner at Derby taught me that, actually, because she taught me a lot. She actually taught me a lot about leadership. And I watched her company grow from 3 to 30 people in 20 years. And I was her chief marketing person. And she was always like, sometimes I would write an email and she'd write me back a little feedback, "Too tentative, Annie," you know, or she'd give me some feedback. And at first I was like, well, you know, but now I look back on it, it's like, I learned so much from her on being a woman in a leadership role. And she taught me a lot. And it's not that complicated at all.
Yeah, Kira's done that for me.
Once you get it, once you get into that vibe, you won't go back. You'll just keep moving forward. And that confidence that men carry around with them more so than we do, you will get and you will keep. You won't go backwards. I haven't gone backwards at all. In fact, I'm getting even better at it.
You attract, I'm learning because, you know, I just have always wanted to be the nicest person in the room.
Make everybody happy. And
oh God, no. It also didn't what I learned, it also didn't make me the nicest person in the room.
Yeah.
A lot of times it made me a dangerous person in the room. And that transition from really being more in my boundaries to trying to please everybody was very alienating, because I lost a lot during that transition. But as I get stronger, what I'm learning is that I attract so much higher quality of what I'm trying to create.
100%.
But
that is 100% true.
Process.
So no, it is a process, but that's 100% true. What you do attract the right people when you're in the right frame, for sure. Yeah, and you'll start to see that pretty quickly. And I think that's helpful in leadership as well.
So you talked about a picture of Wendy, which I love because
She's so
I
badass.
don't idolize movie stars or whatever like
I
that.
don't either.
Damn, she is.
I know.
I love her role. What
yeah,
are some other tools that you've picked up along the way that we could pass on? We have a lot of women that watch this that are just starting to step their toes, and they really don't have any idea what this industry is like. What
yeah.
are some nuggets you could pass on?
Well, 100%, you know, stay connected with other women. So whether it be, you know, obviously right now we can't be together, but like I have a group that I co-founded called Bloom, and we will be having getting that back up and running as soon as we can. And so, and it's just a real simple networking group. It's just, you know, it's potluck, and, you know, bring your own joints, bring your own drinks, bring some food. And, you know, sometimes we structure it differently where we will have a speaker for 15 minutes, but it's mostly about connection and asking questions. So I would tell you, if you're getting into the industry, get connected, you know, get on these calls. What you guys are doing is just amazing. And then when you can start going to, you know, to events, go to every event you can. And it doesn't even matter if it's your sector or not. Like if it's a growers event, go, because you will learn something, you will meet somebody. So that the connectivity part of it is huge. And, you know, connect with your women tribe, but also just connect with your tribe, your local tribe. You know, like we have a whole group here in Sonoma County, men and women, and we all know each other, and we do things together. And so that's very, very helpful. Also, if you're getting in the industry, you know, don't be afraid to take risks, because this is kind of a crazy industry. And so, you know, put your foot forward and take a risk. And if it doesn't work out, like I said, okay, you learned from it, you'll have some growth around it. But, you know, I think in this industry in particular, you have to really be willing to step out and take a risk. So that would be my two big things: the connectivity and the risks. Take risks. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the plant is supports us in connection as part of her purpose, right?
100%. Yeah.
And until we're federally legal, it's all a risk. We're all taking risks.
For sure.
You know, I mean, having a manufacturing facility and distribution, you're working with a lot of other people's products. Is that correct?
Exactly. So what we do is, when we first started the business, we were actually going to do extractions and shared space. So we were going to take this 8,300 square foot building and carve it up and have brands come and rent the space to make their products. Well, the first 6 months of us getting this going, while the construction was happening, I was traveling all over the state talking to brands and meeting people, because that's what I do. I love doing that. I could do that all day long. And so now I've had to step into the CEO role, which I had to Google that to figure out exactly what that was. So
I keep Googling it and don't understand.
What am I supposed to be doing? Oh my God. Because we had to change leadership and it was not fun. And so now I'm doing the CEO and also the CMO, but you really can put those jobs together. So, but anyways, I was traveling all over the state, and I realized none of these brands wanted to make their stuff anymore. The barrier of entry was too high. You know, that you couldn't buy a building, buy all your equipment, have employees, you know, it just, because before you could literally make your products at your house, you know, or in the back of your trunk or wherever, you know, and now you have to have a licensed, permitted facility, and that barrier is too high. And so I realized very quickly, small brands, legacy brands, and even big manufacturers are getting out of the manufacturing space and going to this co-manufacturing, which is what we're doing now. So we're not sharing our space. We're making the products for the brands. And for me, one of my most important customers, I mean, all of my customers are important, but the legacy brands, like you talked about right at the beginning of this call, that have just been completely annihilated, that makes my blood boil, because you guys paved my way. I've only been doing this 6 years, which feels like 60, but so, but I really go out of my way to help, these legacy brands get back up and running again, and help them provide a path, and really work with them on, whatever it is. If they need packaging that's not too expensive. I mean, coming from the design background, I have tons of people that aren't going to charge the cannabis tax, so I try to really help those brands get back on board again. That's really very important to me.
So one of
so
the hurdles, one of the big hurdles in bridging that gap between legacy and getting a brand to the market is the unknown. So what a woman, in fact, I can think of a few women right now that might be watching this or who will watch it later. One has an amazing chocolate company that she created and developed over the years. I have a skincare line. There's multitudes, right? So what are the first steps, or could you map out real briefly so someone wouldn't feel so unknown?
Absolutely. So what we do is basically the first step is that you talk to me, which is always fun. And I sort of just kind of get a general idea of what you're trying to do. And then we have an onboarding form, and it's really easy to fill out. And it just asks a bunch of questions about, what's your packaging like? What are you trying to make? What are the milligrams? Do you need help with cannabis? It's just a whole list of questions. So then you fill out the onboarding form. And from that, we have a second conversation with our production, with my production people. And then from there, we can give you a quote on what it's going to cost to produce the products per unit. And then the other things that we can also provide is we have some clients that come to us and they don't have a recipe or anything. They just have an idea. And so we have formulators and bakers on staff. And so if you needed like a recipe for a lemon bar, we could give you an exclusive recipe, do the R&D for you, help you source the cannabis, help you source the packaging. If you need a graphic designer, I've got a whole bunch of those people that will help. And so I try to just like lay out the path for the person to get going again. And again, for me, I like to have super transparent conversations about money, especially because it needs to be win-win. And we both need to make money. And I'm not here to gouge people. Yes, I'm here to make money like everyone else, but for me, it's about the relationship first. I mean, my customers often ask me, what's the most important thing to you? And I say, you are, because it's true. If I can work everything out with you, any little speed bumps we have, we're just going to work it out. So yeah, I really like to talk openly and sit down and have it be win-win. And I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback going that route, instead of us, the brand and then myself trying to guess where we're at, it's like, this is what it's going to cost me to make this product. Let's look at your cogs. Let me help you figure out, maybe you shouldn't use an origami box. Maybe you should use a bag, So I help them kind of figure out a path. And it's delightful for me to do that. I get a lot of gratification out of that, helping people figure that out. So it's really not that intimidating.
Well,
I don't make it so.
You just mentioned a lot of the pieces that I know folks don't feel they have to be able to get to market. I have a really good path. I mean, like I said, I've got all these people around me, and I really, depending on what, if somebody's making a tincture, I'll say, okay, call these two people for your cannabis, and talk to them and educate yourself, and then call this person for your packaging, and then let this person do your label design. Bring all that together and bring it back to me. So, and then when you have questions along the way, just hit me up and I'll answer them. So that's what I do. What are you finding right now, getting a lot of requests as far as product development? Where do you see the market going?
We've got a little bit of everything. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I do see a lot more like bath bombs and bath salts. A lot of people are interested in kind of the, and also just sort of like package things, like where there's a tincture, a bath bomb, and some pre-rolls, and maybe they all come together, So I'm seeing that as a trend. The little boxes that are coming up with all the cool stuff in them. I think a trend should be products for men because not a lot of people are doing that. And I joke with everyone, like somebody needs to put, you know, a after sports cream in a black apple box and you're going to be a millionaire, you know, because a lot of people are going down the road of, you know, you know, the kind of more feminine looking packaging. So, and they're tailoring their products for women, and that part of the market is getting saturated. I'm not saying it's not a good move, but I think the male population is actually underserved aside from, you know, some of the concentrates and flour and stuff. So I think they would like a specialized product for themselves. So I'm not seeing that.
Yeah,
So,
I've been really surprised by that. I
yeah.
expected to see mustache waxes and beard care, and I believe I saw one line a few years ago start with something. But you're right, we really haven't seen a lot of that. That's curious to me because it's such a male market.
No.
So many males in here. It seems like we would be.
Yeah. And the other thing that always makes me feel curious is there's not as much like sugar-free options and also healthy options. And I'm thinking, I live in California, land of the healthy tree hugging people, you know, and it's like, there's not, you know, there's a lot of cookies out there with a lot of sugar. And honestly, you know, if you're somebody who's battling cancer or a disease, maybe you don't want all that sugar. And so I don't know where all the healthy products are. I don't see a lot of them on the market. So I think that is something that needs to, and that totally surprises me, especially given the state we live in. So.
Well, here's my theory on that because I agree with you. I think it comes from that more corporate top-heavy structure. We had a lot of money come in that infused everything they could find in the supermarket,
Right.
without really an understanding of how to formulate the plant. Like, you know. It's not just CBD that makes it work, right? So understanding how to layer it, we're still working on bringing those two.
Big time. That I get on that soapbox as much as I possibly can. So, because just the education piece of that alone is huge. I mean, you know, 8 months ago when everything was CBD everywhere, I was like, oh my goodness, you know, and then people were calling me up. I bought this, it doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, no shit. You know, go to the dispensary and get it. It's got to have a little bit of THC in it, you know? So yeah, that whole thing was, but I'm not seeing as much of it out there as I did. So.
Well, I think we're starting to, and you know, this gives me hope for all those legacy product makers, is because, you know, we had this first layer of CBD everything, cannabis everything, hemp everything, and now we're getting all these problems, right? There's a lot of products in there that don't work. So now the word snake oil is in our vocabulary in this industry. But what I see is this opening that's going to allow what my son and I keep saying, the cream is rising to the top.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Now those consumers are more educated because they did get a product that didn't work.
It didn't work.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many people have called me, emailed me, text, whatever, gotten in touch with me. I tried this. It didn't. I mean, everyone I talked to about, nope, didn't work. I'm like, yep, nope. Here's why. So yeah, I think people caught on to that pretty quickly. I actually didn't really expect that. I was unclear how that was going to go, because you know how consumers are.
Yeah, I think social media, for the good and the bad, is bringing a lot of awareness in our understanding that we can self-source, meaning we can learn and get what we need.
I mean, I can't even imagine, like, I was laughing with somebody yesterday about how you know, when I was in college, we didn't have computers. And I'm thinking to myself, we were laughing. We had the biggest laugh about not having Google, like to Google something. And I said, I used to have a whole set of Encyclopedia, the Britannica, whatever those were.
Encyclopedias.
Yeah, encyclopedia. I don't even remember the word anymore. It was so long ago, you know, and I'm just like, but I remember having that. And I remember, you know, just going to the library and checking out books and doing research of these books that were super old. And that's how we learned, you know, and now just like, I just can't even imagine. You want to know something, you got that answer pretty well, or a whole page of ideas in 2 seconds. So I don't know how the world would survive without.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's doing
It
two.
wouldn't.
Yeah, right. It's either making us more dependent or it can make us have to trust our own instincts better.
It's both, because like you said, it's good and bad. I mean, you can get on there and diagnose yourself with some medical problem that you don't have. That's scary. Like, we've all done that, right? Like, pain in my shoulder. Oh my God, like, so yeah. I actually just got my daughter a phone. I wasn't planning on it. She's 10, and just because of COVID, and she couldn't keep in touch with her friends. But now I've had to really back down the usage. It's like that thing is attached to her hip. I'm like, oh man, so I'm not too worried about it though, because it's just a weird time, and
I gave up with
you need
COVID.
some connectivity.
Yep, it's the only thing my son has to connect, really.
That's correct. And she talks to her cousins and my mother, and her grandparents on my husband's side, and and all of her friends. So
yeah, we're evolving or morphing, or what is that?
Something, I don't know.
It's going to be an interesting 20 years later from all.
Oh, I know. I always think to myself, like, here we are now, like, as again, when I went to college, we didn't have computers. I mean, I self-taught myself how to use a Macintosh and all the graphic design programs, because there was none of that in college. And so I wonder, what is it going to be like in 20 years? I don't really have a whole lot of thought on that. I just can't even imagine, so much has changed in the last 20 years. So,
well, we probably won't really even understand how much has changed until it's 20 years and we look back, right? That's the thing that takes a lot of fear out of me, and worry is that this is humanity. This is change. This is evolution. And it's always happening. Life and death is constant. It's constant.
Yeah. Thank goodness, right?
Yes, I know. We wouldn't have this amazing plant to connect around,
So yeah, I have to tell you, I have met some of the most. It's funny because I've always, had this. How should I say this? People like me generally because I'm a pretty easygoing person, and so I always have a lot of people around me, and at some point about 10 years ago, I was like, oh, I got to clean my friend closet out, just because I started realizing that, what, relationships aren't unconditional. They're not. And it needs to be two-way. And if there's nothing coming back at me, then I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. And so I really did do that. It took a while to do. And then I was like, okay, cool. Now I have my core group of friends that give back to me, and I give to them, and we're awesome. I don't need any more friends. And then but then I joined this industry, and I start meeting all these amazing people, and especially women. And I'm like, oh, now I got all these new friends, and I love it. I just love it. I mean, it's just, the cannabis industry, honestly, I've never met so many hardworking, ethical people ever in any industry. I mean, seriously, I talk to so many people that just log it in so many hours to get this up and running, like I am too, this is why I look tired. But people keep telling me that. I'm like, thanks for that, So. But I am tired right now. I am logging in a lot of hours, to get this company, up and running, and things have been a little slower with COVID and fires, and so, we're not going along at the clip we expected to, based on all the interest we had. Now, my biggest fear is I can feel it. It's like right around the corner, and then we're going to be slamma-jamma. So, and that's scary too. So, because we're just starting to get some of these bigger anchor clients in. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to think about a second shift here pretty soon, and so yeah.
That's exciting though.
It is, and scary though. It's scary. That's scary sometimes too. You have to build, like, actually another little pointer for women CEO would be, when I first took over that job, I mean, I seriously was like, oh my God, I can't build a spreadsheet. I can read them, I can understand them, but like, I didn't have some of the skills, and I just was, oh no, how am I going to do this? And then I started talking to some other CEOs, and they're like, no. You have the people around you that do all that. You just need to keep an eye on things. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. But it's true. You build, the people you have around you and I never say under me. I always say by my side, or, like some people will call me the boss. I'm like, no, 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 no. You can call me a skipper, but but it's just, the people you have around you and helping you and building you up, and that very, very important, especially your key people. And so choose those people wisely. And yeah, because my people that I have around me are amazing, and could not be doing this without them in any way. So that's important.
Well, I think that's a really important part of leadership as well, is acknowledging that you don't
Can't
have
do it
all
all.
the skills, right?
No, I don't. Yeah, no, definitely not. I've got the qualities, the general, I've got the general leadership quality, which you do have to have, the confidence and the risk taking and not being afraid of much. And so those types of things, but I don't have all the skills that I need. Like I said, I can't build a spreadsheet to save my life. I don't understand any of those formulas. I have massive dyslexia, but I have someone that can do that. And I can read it. I can ask questions. And that's all you need. You just do. You need that. So.
Yeah, and have confidence in yourself and in trusting your decision making, because that's why you're in the leadership role.
Right. But I also lean on my key people too for decisions as well. Like, I'm not the type of leader that says, I got the last word. It's like, I don't like that. So like, I try to run the company a little bit flat. I mean, yes, I'm at the top, and there does need to be a top, because at first I came into the role very lightly because I didn't understand the role and I didn't want to overstep. But I did realize very quickly there does need to be a top, and it's okay to be that person. And you just and how your actions reflect all the way down. And so you have to sometimes if I'm like in a funky mood or something, I will not show that to my to some of my key people. I will, but not to the rest of the staff. And I would recommend that. So just
That's a
just,
really,
yeah.
really good piece of advice, actually. One, it took me a while to learn, but and I think for women, it's hard for me to get my head around it a little bit, because I'm like, no, I should be able to be authentic
Yeah.
to my team. But then I saw how stuff that they didn't even need to know about was going
Right.
on, that only made their job harder and made
Right.
them afraid.
Or created some drama or whatever, some gossip or whatever it was.
Right, yeah. Right. And I didn't need them to have the fear and the stress that I was carrying,
Right.
And that helped me kind of understand that. But it was really difficult to realize that in leadership, we do have to separate ourselves a little bit.
You do. You really do. And but I do believe that you have, a couple key people around you, like my HR person, my bookkeeper, my director of operations, and my attorney. They all happen to be women, not by design. It just worked out that way. But those guys, like, I will tell them, I need some help. I'm not having a good day. I need some help with this decision. I would like you all to weigh in. So that upper management, I think you should absolutely lean on them as a CEO and absolutely trust them. And, there's been times when I broke down and like just lost it and started crying about something briefly, and everybody, then we all start laughing, and then, it was just whatever, and so I think that's where you get your support from, those upper management people that are around you. I would not be afraid to connect with those people, because you need it. You can't be up here all by yourself. It doesn't work.
And it actually is if they're in leadership as well, it's teaching them how to not express themselves, but to have that core group too. It's
right. And then I have no holds bar in our meetings, man. I mean, we were just like I said the other day, something happened. I was really tired, and I said to my HR lady, I said, I can't. Not lady, my HR person. I said, I can't do this right now. I'm feeling very beat up. We've had a lot to deal with lately, and I need you to handle this for me. And normally it would have been something that I should have handled. And she's like, no problem, Annie, I'll take care of it. And I was like, thank you. But I had enough, you know, where self-awareness to realize that I was not in the right space to give that speech to a certain person. I was like, and she helped me with it. I was there, but she helped me with it. And so that's how I leaned on her, and she handled it, and the situation went fine. So yeah, just being able to realize that, you know, you need help. Everybody needs help. And
Well,
people want to help.
you mentioned a word that I'm hearing a lot in the media right now, and that's awareness. I think that's another quality to leadership, is having self-awareness.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I've always had that. Like I said, my parents were so incredibly awesome. And I also moved 14 times before I was 10 years old. My dad worked for Sears and Roebuck, and we just kept getting transferred all over the country. And so, you know, I had to learn how to like stand on my own 2 feet, because I would move in like the middle of the school year. And so that created that self-awareness for me, because when you're the new kid coming to the school, you have to make your own way. I mean, rarely did it happen that someone came up to me and said, hi, I'm so-and-so, want to go out, want to go play on the swings? You know, like, the kids just they don't do that, you know, like, so I had to go and say, hi, I'm Annie, want to go swing or something, you know, so that's how I got that part of my personality, for sure, 100%.
So as we wind up here, being a woman who had another career and then came into this industry, what is a key piece of advice that you have for women who were in the medical or the traditional markets that are looking for ways to engage in legalization?
I think, like I said earlier, getting involved in as much as you can, whether it's just, you know, a women's group or a general cannabis group, or do some, you know, understand where, like, for example, in California, we have these 3 agencies, and they're all supposed to get put together in one, which would be great. Let's hope that happens. But, you know, maybe getting involved in some of the legislation issues, some of the legalization issues, get yourself involved, however it is, and do something with a nonprofit, because it emerges you into the industry. And when we can go to events again, go to the events, go to all of the events, and just talk to people. I mean, you know, usually the showroom floor, I mean, I talk to people all day long on the showroom floor, but a lot of the you know, I guess they call them after parties, but that's where I really find a lot of connection points. So go to those events when we can, you know, because this will end and we will pick back up again. And so, yeah.
So what about, I mean, I have a lot of friends that have gone to the events and then they leave and they're like, well, that was a great party. What would you do after the event? Is there something that you do after the event?
So for me, yeah, I do actually. So yeah, I mean, it sort of sometimes depends on the mood I'm in. Like sometimes I just sort of feel like relaxing after being on the showroom floor, but I make as much use of my time as I can. And so sometimes I will go to a party and just sort of be more social. But even if I am social with someone, I always get their business card. Always. Even if we didn't talk about anything, we just trade cards, you know, or anything business-like. So, and then sometimes I will talk a little business. And I just, again, like I said earlier, keep it brief. But I always make sure I get the contact. I put them on a list, and I have an e-blast that goes out once or twice a month, and it talks about all kinds of things. Sometimes it highlights what I'm doing. Sometimes it highlights, oops, sorry. It's a helicopter going by.
I hear that.
Sorry. I don't know why, but anyway, so sometimes, so yeah, so I make sure I get a contact and I stay in contact with the people. And if it's someone that I had a conversation that may lead to doing some business together, I always follow up with an email. I take the time to do that and then say, hey, do you want to chat again? But if it's not, then they just go on kind of my general list, and those people I stay in contact with once or twice a month with a little newsletter that I put out. So.
Oh, well, that's a great system. I'm going to pick up some pieces of that and add it to mine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. I mean, you can bang out some stuff like on MailChimp or Campaign Monitor, and And again, it doesn't have to be me, this is my business, I'm so great. It can be like, hey, check this, link out for the women's group Bloom, or, here's the Last Prisoner Project. And, so I try to highlight what other people are doing as well. So it's not just about me. And then, I always also put what my company does on the bottom of the newsletter.
So what about a woman who is just watching because she's just learning about cannabis and she's like, maybe I should transition into this industry?
Run. No, just kidding.
And she's not totally kidding.
Yeah. Some days I'm like, oh my God. I'm from Maine. I'm like, I want to move back to Maine and just live like in a lobster shack. Be done with it. No. Be simple. Yeah, I think you need to be prepared for it's complex. It's very complex. I think you need to really want to do it. I think, like to your point earlier, that when this first got legal, everybody poured in here, all these investment people poured in here, and they poured all this money into the industry very irresponsibly, which makes it very difficult for us to raise money now because all the investor people have cold feet. Well, if any investor people start giving money again, please, you need to. I mean, that's how this industry is going to survive, So I'm seeing this cycle come back around again. With the investment. But I think, if you're getting in the industry, you have to really, really want to do this because it is a lot of work. It is the hardest I have worked in my life. I mean, when I had a design firm, I was really good at what I did and everything went pretty smoothly and no hoop jumping with regulations and things like that. So this is the hardest I have ever worked. And honestly, I wish I was 10 years younger. I'm 57. Because my energy level I'm tired a lot, because I am putting in a lot of hours. And so, and I know that will change because, we're a startup and you know how that goes. So Google that. No. Just Google startup in cannabis and read and get what you get.
And you'll get lots of info, right?
Don't do it. No. I think you have to be prepared to really hunker down. So, but you also have a lot of support too.
It is the hardest thing I've ever been involved in my life, professionally. Yes. But it also has been, it's more. If you have any demons, get ready to face them.
Yes.
And you'll have an amazing experience. But it definitely will challenge you more than anything else you've probably experienced.
Oh, for sure. But like we were talking about earlier, if you can see those challenges and have that be a growth scenario for you, what more could you ask for? I mean, I have learned so much, especially in the last 6 months. With this change of leadership we had, it was a difficult situation, and I learned how to manage attorneys. I learned all kinds of things, So I've learned a lot. I've had a huge, huge growth spurt in the last year. Huge.
Yeah. Me too. I see our whole industry really has.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I just read this article locally that I can't remember what the title it was, but it was something about the cannabis industry comes back together around the fires, And,
yeah. Well, there's some people like in your area in Mendocino that, lost their, I know someone who lost like 3 homes and 2 gardens. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like everything, that's really sad.
It is. It's really devastating, but fortunately we are a community that gathers around each other at hard times, no matter.
In that 2017 fire that was down here that was so bad in the Santa Rosa area, we got together as a group. I don't remember the monetary value that we raised in one night, but it was huge. And it was all for fire relief, and it went directly to the people that showed up to this event that lost their farms and their homes.
I think it's a testament to what true sustainability is. It's not just recycling. It's really building. Right?
Okay, that is a t-shirt. Okay. True sustainability, not just recycling. Okay, I'm going to do that. That's funny. It's true though. Everything, well, I recycle. Okay.
No, I believe true sustainability is a state of mind.
Yeah.
It's really it's how you build, it's how you create. You either create destructively because creation makes change,
Yes, it
or
does.
you create for growth.
Yes.
Um,
Creating for growth is way better for you as a human and everyone else around you, by the way. So
right. And
I
growth.
use soapbox lately. I'm like, okay, people, get it together. We're all dealing with the same thing. So just, wear your mask and be nice. It's not that hard, help somebody out because it's going to make you feel better. Because
We
we're
all
all
feel
pretty,
better.
yeah, we're all pretty isolated right now, and that's no fun. And I will say, and I know we're running out of time, but
All
just
right.
quickly, I tend to go underground a little bit when I'm faced with all the stuff, And so, but lately I've been doing a lot more of this and just connecting with some of my other women friends, on Zoom, or instead of picking up the phone, doing a Zoom call where I can actually see somebody. And I'm also been trying to do nice things for people as much as I can, just even people I don't know, whatever it might be. And that's making me feel better because, all of this causes me some mild anxiety and some mild depression too, which I'm of course very good at hiding, but now the whole world will know, but that's okay. I don't mind. But I think when you do things for other people, it makes you feel better as a human. So
I agree. It's my biggest pain medicine is giving, that doing good. Um, and I think everyone has a little anxiety and depression right now.
sure.
I think that's really just normal.
I think so too. Everyone I talk to says the same thing. When I finally started coming out of my shell a little bit and actually admitting like, oh, this is happening to me, and okay, this is why I'm feeling this way. And then I started mentioning it to other people and they're like, oh, hell yeah, I'm right there with you. So then again, you have that connection point and you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. So not that I thought I was the only one experiencing this, but just being able to talk about it with someone else and be like, oh, you feel that way when you wake up? Okay, me too. So
Yeah, that connection I think actually creates a catalyst of healing cellularly when
totally.
you feel that similarity.
Absolutely.
Before we go, where do you see the industry going in the next year in California with all these external factors now, particularly for manufacturing?
Yes, I do think the wave is manufacturing. I mean, and co-packing like what we're doing, because I have some rather large clients that used to manufacture on their own and they're just done. They're like, I don't want to be a manufacturer anymore. I want you to do it. So I think this model is a really good one. And I do think this will be how the industry will go. I also think once we get the interstate commerce potentially together or the legalization, I mean, for me, the closest model to cannabis is alcohol, wine and beer, wine in particular, actually. And if you think about, California wines, you know, everybody wants the California wines wherever they go. I mean, when I travel to Maine, I bring my wine with me because I can't deal with what they have to offer in the state of Maine. And so I think once this opens up, it's going to be the same way. Everybody, no one in Oklahoma is going to build a big factory, grow shitty weed and make crappy edibles. It's not going to happen. They're going to want these Sonoma brands, these Humboldt brands, because we grow the best weed in the world. And so, so I think that's, it's going to open up, to be able to legally transport over state lines, and all these brands that are in California, they'll be all over the United States, which I think is totally cool. And then potentially globally as well. So, so I see it kind of following the California wine pattern is what I see.
I love that vision for the next year. I do. I see that too. I feel like, we burst through little layers, right? And I feel like that this is so tough right now because we're getting ready to burst through another.
We are. I mean, honestly, I really thought at the end of last year, like in October, I thought, okay, this 2020, we're going to burst through all of this rigmarole and blah, blah, blah. We're good. We're on our path. And COVID stopped us. I mean, the world stopped. I mean, my investors are always asking me, why it's taking longer. I'm like, yeah, well, you live up there in COVID-free Canada, and like, and I live down here in a war zone. And by the way, I am putting my life on the line for you every day. So don't forget that. So, so, I think the world stopped, and especially here in California. I mean, in our county alone it's picked up. It's scary. And the whole flu season, I'm like, but somebody did point out to me the other day, remember everybody, or a lot of people are wearing masks. So it might not be so bad. So,
right. We might have a mild,
we might,
of
because
illnesses.
we're wearing masks. Well, I am anyways, so I can speak.
I am too. I'm high risk. So I'm like super isolated.
Yeah.
My poor son has to deal with that, which is really hard on him. But
well, you're doing the right thing. I mean, my brother's high risk. I'm kind of medium. I have a little bit of blood pressure stuff that actually from this job probably, but but I also have it in my family. But that is high risk to COVID, and so I'm very, very, very careful. I don't go to restaurants. My exposure is at work, and I have my own office, and I always wear a mask. I hand sanitize myself all day long. So yeah. But I'm hoping the flu season won't be as bad as usual, because we are taking precautions already. So
right, and a lot of kids aren't in school.
We're right. My daughter's not in school. She comes with me to work. She homeschools. I wouldn't let her go back to school, even if it was an option right now. So just too many unknowns still.
I feel the same way about my son.
Yeah.
So before we sign off, how can people find you if they'd like to get a product manufactured and have that discussion, or just have a conversation?
Yeah, no, I am really open to any questions, comments, funny stories. I mean, call me up. So, you can email me at Annie@thegalley.sr.com. I guess I won't give my phone number out over the see, I'm so open-minded, I probably would, but I guess I won't. But yeah, Annie@thegalley.sr.com. And I'm happy to just send me an email, and we can start a conversation. And even if it just is about anything we've talked about today, I'm happy to help, because that's how everything is going to work. I believe in the spinning universe, and you just keep giving and you get, you give and you get, you give and you get. And so I take my time out of my day to help people out all the time, and I get it back all the time. So yeah, happy to help.
Well, thank you for helping us by spending the time today.
Really, this is fun. I really enjoy I love this format. This is like, it's more mellow, and it's just, we're just having a conversation, and this is a well done format. I like how you do this. So, and I like the fact that I can see you, because the last one of these I was looking at myself the whole time, and it was just, I like being able to see just one other person, because then I feel like I'm actually just like talking to myself.
We're connecting.
So we're connecting.
Right. So sometimes you can change that. It depends on what kind of platform they're using, but you can
okay.
at top too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for that. I didn't know that. So
not always, but sometimes.
Yeah, I like this. This is better for me when I'm speaking.
Thank you. We really just started doing it because we are such extraordinary women, and we have such extraordinary experiences. That I felt like we needed a relaxed place to be ourselves, and to empower our little sisters to be themselves as well.
I actually have my jammy bottoms on. I have my galley shirt on.
All right.
But these are my pajamas.
I love it. Hey, I
should probably change. I'm like, well, no one's gonna see my pants, so I think we're good.
Yeah, I've got yoga pants on, but that's what I'm always wearing.
These are kind of like that too. They're not official jammies, but anyways. Normally I get dressed. So.
Okay. Thank you, Annie, and thank
you. It was this has been so enjoyable, and this like makes my day for connectivity and support, and it was just a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being with us. And we're friends now, so reach out anytime.
For sure.
And when I'm on the road, I want to come see the galley.
And I want to come up and see you as well, because that was my plan. I think we talked about this for this year. My plan was to head north, because I didn't get very far in the north part of the state. So I would like to come see you as well when this is all.
a big hug waiting
Oh,
for
good. Yeah, no,
you.
for sure. I know it's weird not to hug people. I'm total hugger. So,
Well, I'm learning, like, I have these energy hugs that you can just, and I just did it. You just kind of,
yep, you
and
do.
it feels, you get the
Yeah, I
same.
got you. I felt you.
Yeah, it's we can figure it out. It's not
Yeah.
the same as hugging. It's kind of weird. I'm hugging my son less too, because it's like, it's just this whole space is being created. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm going
no,
to sign us off.
okay. All right. Take care.
Thanks
Thank
for
you. Okay.
watching, everybody,
All right.
and
Thank
tune
you,
in next
everyone.
week
Okay.
and be safe.
Okay. Bye, everyone.